For the second time in 3 weeks, your Seattle Seahawks are in prime time as they take on the Chicago Bears. Welcome in to this edition of Seattle Seahawks Today. Powered by Chad Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us. Coming up on today's show, we'll go over our keys to victory for Seattle. We'll break down the injury report, and I'll give you my prediction in just a bit. Seattle comes in at 8-7. The Bears at 4-11. The Hawks slight favorites in this one. A must-win game to stay alive in the NFC playoff picture. Let's tell you how things stack up heading into Week 17 in the NFC. The Lions, your number one overall seed at 13-2. They have already clinched a playoff spot. The Eagles at 12-3, the number 2 seed. There lies the Rams at 9-6, the 3 seed. The Falcons, the 4 seed at 8-7. The wild card includes the Vikings at 13-2, the Packers at 11-4, and the Commanders at 10-5. Seattle, if they're going to get in the postseason, it won't be by way of the wild card. That is already out of the question. They have to win the division in order to take a spot in the postseason. If you're ready for Seahawks game day, spam S in the comments section. Let's get fired up, 12s. Let's hear you loud and clear. Let's get at least 300 S's as if you're in your seats at Lumen Field. Let your voice be heard. If we get at least 300 comments, that guarantees victory here on Thursday night. Do your part. Spam S in the comments section, and we'll continue here on today's show. Let's begin with a look at the injury report. This is as of our recording on Tuesday, how things stack up for Seattle. Brady Russell with a foot injury remains questionable. Kenneth Walker with that ankle issue is questionable. Noah Fant with a knee injury, questionable. And Zach Charbonnet at the running back position with an elbow injury. He is questionable. So you're a little potentially shorthanded at the running back and tight end positions there. Olu with the knee injury, questionable at this point. Derick Hall with a shoulder injury remains questionable. And then Uchenna and Nwosu with a shoulder injury as well is questionable. So you can see the outside linebacker position also potentially a little shorthanded. Meanwhile, for the Bears, Elijah Hicks at the safety spot with an ankle issue. He is questionable. Travis Homer, former Seahawk, with a hamstring injury. He is questionable. Tevin Jenkins at the offensive guard spot with a calf issue, questionable. Tavarius Moore at the safety position with a knee injury, questionable. And then Amen with a hip injury. He is questionable there as well. So that's how things stack up, at least as of Tuesday. Obviously, things could change between now and kickoff. What's it going to take to defeat the Chicago Bears? This has been an ongoing theme all year long here on Seahawks Today. We've talked a lot about it, and that is run the damn football. When the Hawks are at their best offensively, it's not when they're throwing the ball 40 and 45 times a game. It's when they have balance, when they effectively run the football. And obviously it's been a big issue for this team when it comes to the offensive line. There's limitations of what they can do with this offensive line when it comes to the run game. But the last 2 weeks, they've gotten away from the run game. It hasn't worked. Just 139 total rushing yards as a team in the last 2 weeks. Kenneth Walker, this season has not gone the way he had hoped for, averaging less than 4 yards carry, 573 yards. He's been pretty banged up as well. But his counterpart, Zach Charbonnet, has had his moments. We saw in the game against Arizona where he really went off with over 100 yards. Only twice this season have the Hawks had a running back rush for over 100 yards in a single game this year. I don't care if it's Walker. I don't care if it's Charbonnet. Heck, even if it's Kenny McIntosh. Just find a way to establish the run and get this run game going in some way, shape, or form. Ryan Grubb, I'm looking at you. Do not get away from running the football. Who do you got? I'll give you my prediction coming up later, but want to hear from you guys first. You going with the Hawks or are you going with the Bears? Type C for Seattle. Type CHI for Chicago. Weigh in and let us know in the comment section who you got. We'll be live on Thursday night for Seahawks and Bears right here on Seahawks Today, our second to last watch party of the regular season. So once you finish your Christmas leftovers, come on over and stay a while, hang out with us for our Thursday Night Football watch party, the last Thursday Night Football game of 2024. Subscribe now. Make sure and join us. Our coverage begins just after 4 o'clock Pacific time. We'll do an hour-long pregame show, react to the game in real time, have a few drinks on hand, do some giveaways and more. Make sure and join us coming up Thursday night right here on Seahawks Today. Subscribe now for free. Number 2 in our keys to victory for Seattle, the best player on the offensive side of the ball this season for the Hawks has been wideout Jaxon Smith-Njigba. He has been on a tear as of late, and I want to see the JSN show just continue to blossom. He has gone 8 straight games with a very nice total of at least 4 catches and 69 receiving yards. He has been Geno's go-to guy. He has been just awesome, what we've seen in recent weeks. When DK Metcalf went down, there was a big question. Who was going to answer the call? Who was going to step up to the plate? And JSN has done that. He's been very consistent for this Seahawks offense. I want to see JSN show up and show out again. He's already reached over 1,000 yards. And with the NFL season going to 17 games, I think the 1,000-yard threshold has kind of changed in a sense of what you can expect of what is considered a successful year. And you can see he is right there nearing 1,100 yards, which is kind of the new standard of sorts. So JSN, keep it up. I would feed him as much as possible. Give him all the Christmas treats and make sure JSN's taken care of. He needs to have a big night again. Number 3 at our keys to victory, we've talked a lot about Seattle's difficulty in protecting the quarterback, but there is another team in the NFL that struggles even more so protecting their QB under center, and that is the Chicago Bears with Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams has been sacked 60 times this season. That's the most of any quarterback in the National Football League. And a lot of people have pointed to Caleb Williams saying that, man, he hasn't had the year that was expected of him. He was going to be the number 1 overall pick no matter who had that top pick. Caleb was a standout above the rest in this past draft and was thought to be the best quarterback prospect we've seen in a very long time. Mentioned in the same breath like Andrew Luck, like Trevor Lawrence, and among others, but he hasn't really fit the billing of that yet. And I don't necessarily blame Caleb Williams. I think a lot of it has to do with the struggles from the offensive line. And you think about this, too. Caleb Williams, I was watching that game against Minnesota a couple weeks ago, and he was missing a lot of wide-open receivers. He kind of had the yips of sorts. And I think if you can get on to Caleb Williams, if you can get him rattled a bit, then he might set himself up for some potential mistakes. The Hawks' pass rush has been kind of inconsistent this year. We see Leonard Williams and Derick Hall at the top with 7 sacks each, but they haven't done it every single week in and week out. Boye was 6. He had a sack last week. Draymond Jones hasn't been that great this year. Jaron Reed at 3.5. Got to get some pressures. Got to really insert your will when it comes to taking on Caleb Williams. Who will be the Hawks' MVP against the Chicago Bears? If you had to name one player, who would it be and why? Weigh in the comment section and let us know. Before we go any further in today's show, let's tell you about our sponsor. That is ZBiotics. I'm a huge fan of ZBiotics. Maybe you're still looking for a late holiday gift or you're already thinking ahead to your New Year's Eve celebrations. I got the thing you might just be looking for. Let's face it, after a night with drinks, I don't bounce back the next day like I used to. I have to make a choice. I can either have a great night or a great next day. That is until I found ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol. Pre-Alcohol is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct out. Just remember to drink this probiotic before drinking alcohol. Drink responsibly and get a good night's sleep to help you feel your best tomorrow. The first time I tried ZBiotics was at a party, and I got to tell you, I had terrific results. As instructed, I drank a bottle of pre-alcohol before any alcohol. I was amazed at how good I felt the next day. From Thanksgiving feast to New Year's Eve celebrations, this holiday season is packed with events, but don't let the festivities leave you feeling less than merry. ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic can help you savor the night and seize the next day. So stay in the loop and go to zbiotics.com/chatsports You can also scan the QR code on the screen right now to get 15% off your first order when you use code ChatSports at checkout. You can also sign up for the subscription using my code so you can stay prepared no matter the time or occasion. ZBiotics is backed with 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund you, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/chatsports. Use code ChatSports at checkout for 15% off. Thank you, ZBiotics, for sponsoring this episode and our good times. Next up, let's talk about the all-important turnover battle. It's twofold here, right, when it comes to the turnover battle. Obviously, it's about creating turnovers and getting those extra possessions for your offense, but also on the other side of the ball, taking care of the football and not putting yourself into those mistakes. This has been a problem for Seattle this season. Their turnover margin per game is negative 0.5. That's 26th best in the NFL towards the bottom half of the league. There's not a whole lot good you can say about the Chicago Bears team based on how their season's gone, but one area that they're in the top 8 in the NFL is in turnover margin. Plus 0.5, 8th best in the NFL is where their turnover margin is at. They do a pretty decent job when it comes to creating turnovers, but also taking care of the football as well. A name to watch for Seattle this week when it comes to creating those extra possessions is none other than Coby Bryant. Coby Bryant, one of the breakout players for this Seahawks defense this season. He's been a ball hawk when it comes to getting interceptions. He's got 3 so far this season. He's also got a forced fumble as well. If you need a guy to step up and potentially get that extra possession that could be the difference in this football game, I got my eyes set on Coby Bryant potentially being that guy for Seattle to get the job done. While Christmas may be past us, I'm still hoping that Geno Smith is on the nice list for the Hawks come this week with this matchup here. I want to see the good version. I want to see Geno at his best. We've seen Geno throughout the year look really good at times and not so good at times. In the last couple of weeks, he's thrown 3 total interceptions in the last 2 games. And they weren't necessarily all his fault, but nonetheless, I need to see the perfect version of Geno Smith. He's been very accurate when it comes to completion percentage. Over 70%, he's closing in on 4,000 yards. But the big thing that's held him back has been those turnovers. And you just can't afford to make those mistakes. Seattle needs to put themselves in their best position going forward. There's not a whole lot of margin for error in a game with high stakes like this, with big playoff implications. Will the Hawks end up making the postseason? What do you guys think? Type Y for yes and for no. Get your predictions in. Let us know if you think this is a playoff team or not. To recap our keys to victory, before I get you my prediction for Thursday's matchup, a quick reset here. Got to run the damn ball. We need to see whether it's Charbonnet or Walker or McIntosh, got to run the football effectively. More from JSN. Keep it going. He's got the hot hand. No reason to slow down there. Got to get pressure on Caleb Williams. He's been the most sacked quarterback in the NFL, and he's got the yips as well. Need to keep him under duress all night long. Win the turnover battle. Get those extra possessions for the offense, but also offensively take care of the football. And then we need the best version of Geno. We need Geno on the nice list when it comes to this performance this week. If Seattle does all these things, I think victory is on the horizon for the Hawks this week. I like Seattle to win by not 1, but 2 possessions. They know what's at stake. They know that they have a lot to play for this week. I think Seattle comes out of the gates firing. Good news for the Hawks, in case you're curious. They do get to celebrate Christmas with their families before taking off to Chicago on Wednesday night, so that's very good. So hopefully this team's relaxed, they're comfortable, and they're ready to go. We've seen when this team's had their backs against the wall at times this season how well they've responded in some of these moments. I take the San Francisco game after the bye week as a prime example of that. I think that we get that type of showing this week. I'll go Seattle 24-14. If you're ready for a Hawks win, spam W in the comments section. Let's hear it loud and clear. Let's do our part. If we do our part, the Hawks will do their part. Spam W in the comments section. We'll see you on Thursday night for Seahawks and Bears right here on Seahawks Today.